Peace. This is Jackson. Sorry, this is. Gosh, I'm very tired, by the way. But peace. This is Tareck Adeeb. It's time to go with the flow, and this is a quick synopsis of the week ahead astrologically. And I'm in wonderful England. You know, it's always a real pleasure to be back in the place where I grew up, and you know, you can see Kirkstall Abbey in the background, which is a heritage site, you know, in the sense that Henry VIII, I'm very tired, by the way, but Henry VIII took away the roof of the monks because they disobeyed him, and it was like, right, well, you're not gonna have a home, you're gonna have to suffer the cold winter, Yorkshire winter. So, you know, it's interesting to be back. It's always beautiful to be back, and it's surprisingly warm. But yeah, I'm absolutely knackered because I've got jet lag, and I did pick up a bug on the way over from New York, and I'm kind of gutted I didn't get any video from New York, really. But I'm going to try keep it together. Now, I want to say a few things. I want to talk about the bifurcation because it's really playing out now. I mean, I'm so pleased that I decided to do these videos, because if you look at last week's video, I talk about how things are going to get potentially more extreme, and you know, look what's happened. I mean, obviously the big news event, the global event that's now on the news, is obviously with Israel, and it's bizarre as astrology, because the more that you continue this, and it's fascinating. Recently I was looking at Charles Sagan, I think he's called, something Sagan, and he really demonizes or is against astrology, you know, or certainly puts it down, you know, in the way that the pseudoscience aspect of it. He was an astrophysicist, and in the degree that I'm doing, the MA in cultural astronomy and astrology, you know, we have to learn critical review and stuff, so we do look at a lot of the stuff related to attacks on astrology, and you know, I'm down for it. You know, I'm not the sort of person that would ever become an astrologer. In fact, it's still difficult to put myself forward in this regard. But things keep happening right on time, you know, and that's what makes me also question, you know, the scientific approach sometimes, because yes, it's true, we can get into a place of pseudoscience, and you know, before we know it, we're losing our you know, we're losing the rationale, you know, of things. You know, we've become in this sort of weird world of, you know, fantasy and conjuring, and it can be very dangerous, and I agree with that 100%. You know, I think you've got to challenge this stuff. But it's amazing to think that, you know, a black swan, if this is the black swan event that we've been waiting for, would come right before the eclipse, right on time. And, you know, it shows a lot. That's what I mean, eclipses reveal a lot. So obviously this event is very significant now, because it's happened just before the solar eclipse, which is the main theme of the week. And also, it means that this is going to play out now, sadly, you know, really until March next year, the next eclipse. After the last Taurus eclipse, that is. So what does all this mean? Well, we've got to be really, really careful right now, because it is easy to get caught into like conspiracy, conjuring, because obviously the sad fact is too, that's the sad part about all of this. I mean, it's the same thing that happened in Hawaii, you know. It's easy for us to get caught as we're in this bifurcation of questioning things, calling things out, and yet the tragedy is that people have died. Now, what's really, really weird about the whole Israel situation is that, how on earth could that have happened? I mean, if you believe in Hamas, or believe that they, you know, really conjured a way for this to happen, then no one saw it coming, you know. And it's like, you know, that's crazy, really, to consider that Israel in particular have like one of the strongest defense and security. So how on earth? And that's when you got to listen to people on the ground, and people on the ground are like, this doesn't make sense. And that's what sadly is happening, you know, after the event. You know, like for example in Hawaii, you know, everyone's like, oh, this is really sad, you know, people have died, and then people on the ground have gone, this doesn't make sense, you know, why was the water not there? You know, all sorts of strange things occurring, and this is again what happens at these times, you know, before eclipses. And this is why it's very, very important, again, with this understanding of the bifurcation now. Because for many people, as they're awakening, they're working out what's going on. Now, everyone who subscribes to this channel, who listens to me, I'm not here to tell you the truth or what is real and what is not. That is not ever going to be the case. You know, the greatest teachers allow the student to become their greatest teacher, you know. So this is just a way of opening up our mind to potentials, because we want to be alert, prepared, aware, awakened as these events start to play out, because it's so weird. Like the predictability of something like this happening is just almost surreal. And that's what I mean when you follow this astrology. That's why someone like Carl Sagan, I think it's Carl Sagan, yeah, you've got a point. We don't want to go into pseudoscience, crazy la-la land. At the same time, how do sovereign individuals like you, like me, people listening to this, how are we getting this divine information that's preparing us way ahead of schedule? Because I didn't sign up to become an astrologer, but somehow it compelled me to do this. And I get validated, and by putting it out now each week, it creates the credibility. Everything's always open to interpretation. So here we go. You know, we've got our Black Swan event. You know, obviously, you know, when we look at again, this is when we start to get critical. We look at someone like Netanyahu, who's right-wing, who's obviously always wanted to protect the state of Israel to the point of destroying Hamas. And now he's got his opportunity, you know, to do it. So he's gone in all war. And then America now, obviously, the Eclipse that's coming, revealed their hand, wanting to continue the war machine. You know, obviously, any ill act, you know, a defiant act, you know, America should be there to the rescue to a certain extent. It's just that, how on earth did this happen? You know, how did it come to be? You know, you look at the Ukraine war, obviously Putin had his back to the wall, and, you know, not saying he's a saint, he's obviously got expansionist, probably, tendencies too. But the reality is, the problem is, you see, with all of this, is that it sounds to me, from what I'm hearing, Ukraine, you know, what's going on there, they're getting slaughtered, you know, and the mainstream media is not telling us this. You know, this is what I believe to be the case. I mean, again, I'm not there, I'm not on the ground, so this is all speculation to a certain extent. But the reality of what's going on in Ukraine, especially when people think that Ukraine's winning this, is absolute folly from what I'm hearing, and that might not be right. And it's like, you know, with NATO, it's clearly, you know, everyone knows this now, that it's just NATO. So obviously for America, you know, again, this Pluto return, the eclipse, which is so important. If you listen to last week's video, they're showing their hand, i.e. wanting to maintain the war machine. And obviously someone like Netanyahu, as an opportunist, probably thinks, great, I can take out Hamas now while I can. You know, Israel is always in a state of concern with Hamas. That's what he says, that's what he believes. And then, you know, what we see again in the media, if it's true or not, there's many people who don't want this right-wing regime in Israel. So it's very strange circumstances that's going on. But in terms of the astrology, it's quite prolific. And in terms of the bifurcation, it's absolutely revealing these events that are now going to have effects. You can see that the stock market has now gone down exactly on schedule, you know, like, and in a couple of weeks' time, you know, when the Taurus eclipse happens, we're probably going to see a huge downturn, you know. So this is all happening exactly, you know, it's bizarre when you start to follow this for a long time, you know, how orchestrated it all seems, or how weird that the astrology fits into all of this, you know. So, you know, things are heating up. We always knew this was going to be a full-on month. You know, Pluto's gone direct, you know, and obviously Mars coming into Scorpio is going to intensify it. So I expect things to be quite extreme now this next week. And like I say, you know, the war machine, you know, the only thing that's missing now, you know, are they going to try push Iran to go into war? Is Iran going to take the bait? Or is it just going to be an opportunist move from Netanyahu to take out his enemies, basically? And, I'm not saying any killing or maiming is good. Obviously, it's all bad. If this has been some sort of black flag event and their own people have been used as bait, like I heard someone say something recently. They said, "Oh yeah, an Israeli guy said this is because it's the worst atrocity on Israeli soil ever," and he said something like, "This is like our equivalent of 9/11 and Pearl Harbor." That's what he said. Those exact words. And the reason why that's kind of bizarre thing for me to hear, because people know now that they were potentially planned events. The people know this now. It's not like before where obviously there's a lot of people who are going to quickly get PTSD or get triggered. These are all crisis moments now, to trigger people into this, again, fear, divide, all the sort of stuff that has been programming everyone for a very long time, and it's sad to be so, like I say, cold in what I'm saying, because I understand human lives have been lost, but you're seeing it on the threads now where people are saying, well, there's been a lot of lives lost in Palestine. Now, obviously, all lives lost are bad, Israel, Palestine, good, bad, all of this is terrible, this is you could say the evil empire or the old system, which is now revealing itself so blatantly. But again, this is not to be conjuring what I'm saying here. This is, you could say, speculative. It's just weird how it's happening, Obviously, it's not a good thing because, there's only Taiwan left really, and then we're in World War III, But this was always potentially going to happen. So I've got to keep these things short these days, but because I'm so exhausted, I've just got to keep going a little bit. But the eclipse, obviously, this is what's been revealed. Again, we've got to question these things because there was loads of people on the street against Netanyahu not that long ago, in Israel. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I wasn't there, but there was certainly a lot of people not into this right sort of thing. Now, if Netanyahu is knows better for everyone and he's doing the right thing, however this has come to be, it's like, it seems insane, so we just got to be critical. We've got to be a little bit obviously empathetic, but at the same time we've also got to be aware that war ain't good either. There's nothing good about war. We're not Tareck Adeeb's not about war, it's about peace. So we've got to really be aware of what's going on right now. Uranus is in Taurus, we've got eclipses coming. We've got this last Taurus eclipse happening on the 28th, But again, this new moon solar eclipse is happening in Libra. This is always a crazy time. That's happening on the 14th. Mars going into Scorpio on the 12th. This is it now. This is getting more extreme. This is getting more... obviously that Mars squaring Pluto, on the 8th is what's triggered a lot of this. Mercury opposing Chiron on the 14th. We've got a lot of intensity this month. And this is all to do, like I say, with the bifurcation. The awakened ones will become more enlightened at times like this. The ones who are not are going to go more into the third dimensional, divide and conquer, Armageddon. They're not going to be critical at times like this. We saw this black swan coming. It's, what was it going to be? And it just happened. It just happened on time. So it's bizarre. It's bizarre how this stuff plays out. That is absolutely not to take away the suffering that people might be feeling right now. We're all getting triggered into taking sides, divide and conquer. That's not the path to peace. We've got to be in the heart at this time, do what we can to help others who are suffering. But with the most weirdest thing for me, someone who's been following this for a very long time, obviously I've been watching certain agendas play out, for a very, very long time. And for the people of Israel who have been, how this has happened to those people is bizarre. It's never really happened before. Is it negligence on? Is the defence of the Israel not as strong as what they're saying? Is Hamas so intelligent to do this, or is this as blatant, black swan, black flag, or whatever they call it, event ever? I mean, you've got to be desperate, as far as I'm concerned, to become, if it's so predictable like this. But again, that is just speculation. It's not the fact. I do not want to take away the suffering that people are feeling right now. Israel has always been this kind of PTSD, fear-based narrative. If you understood the people of Israel, I mean, I can't choose to, but the Israel people that I've met, they've said, why not Uganda? That's the people that I've met. Why not Uganda? Why why put it there? When certain banking institutions decided to put it, the Holy Land, which is again all religious stuff, right in the epicenter of a religious thing, and then at the same time, conveniently, a hotspot for loads of resources. Now, this is global elites playing out a huge game where the people, Israel, Palestine, whoever people, all of them are collateral damage, who's going to be next? Who's going to be collateral damage next? It's shocking. It's shocking to see this. Apparently in Ukraine, so many people are dying. Do people really want these wars? That's the point here. And then all that will do is trigger more PTSD, more suffering. So more people are hateful, angry, and want justice, want revenge. This is a perpetuation of evil, of complete and utter self-interest, behest to common, normal people, So again, the chessboard will continue, because right now Pluto's in Capricorn, and we have this old world, and before things shift, to the new world, Pluto in Aquarius, we're going to see these rolls of the dice, it's hard to say, what's going on in Ukraine, but from what I hear, it's devastating loss of life, and whatever game is being played, what arrogant game is being played, with an eventual move to World War III, is psychotic, and there are some people, sadly, in the world that actually want that. It's hard to get your head around, but that's the reality. There's a lot of people out there in the world who want death, destruction, loss of life, and it's all for, you could say, it's not for the path of peace. It's not for the path of the heart. It's not about love. It's not about common sense. So we've got to see these things play out, and if we're going to be sovereign, if we're going to be cool, kind, collected, if we're going to be empathetic right now, we've got to try our best not to react to these things and find the empathy for these things, but also we've got to stay in our centre, because as these things ratchet up, and believe you me, you've got 2026 coming, which is big, so obviously now this next eclipse that's going to come in 6 months' time is going to be a byproduct of this, because this is happening around the eclipse. No surprise that the stocks and everything are now coming down. This is corporatism at its worst. This is the big banking system who choose specifically who they're going to target if they don't play ball. This is not love. This is not common sense. This is greed, self-interest, power, playing out in a way that is opportunist, manipulative, at the expense of common people for the gains of a few. And this old world is about to come to an end. Right now, got to be calm, relax, and just let it all play out, because that's just life right now in this weird time that we're living in. And just be wise, because there's plenty of us who are awakening at this time, and all these moments are there to continue that process, to let us become sovereign in the heart, empathetic, and let's see what happens, because we knew that things were going to start to accelerate and go into a certain direction. The hot spots of the world right now, obviously Ukraine, which I just would love there to be a resolution there. But again, a lot of this again is to do with America. Can Biden, what's he going to do? Come out of Ukraine now? He's got an election next year. This is not about human life decency. This is about psychotic agendas, to be quite honest with you. The right thing to happen, and this is important. But at the same time, we've got to see the old world play out for what it is. Greed, power, and corporatism, plutocracy, all of these things have got to play out, because that's the old world, and then the new world, hopefully, AGI will be benefic, and it will reveal this, this hell, this darkness, and it will remove, what needs to be removed. Everybody's got their own self-interest to deal with. That's just the bottom line, because, if you feel a threat from somewhere, often in the art of war, it's better to take somebody out before they take you out. This is the problem. So, anyway, Uranus is in Taurus. We are in this World War III energy. So it's no surprise to me. It's almost weird, like how obvious it all is. That's the bizarre thing for me. But that's to do with this bifurcation. As we are transcending the limitations of the third dimension and the hypnotism, we're moving into more advanced state of seeing things. And the beautiful thing, the reason why we will win, as a collective, as those that are peaceful, those that want to show the way, the reason why that will happen is because we're all awakening at the same time. So it's like a tidal wave. The light will emerge from our path to peace, and how we choose to find peace in a world that is scared, because fear is false evidence appearing real. It's not the truth. It's not sovereignty. It's not that. And again, everyone at the end of the day will serve their own. That's just the way it is in life, because that's the nature of the herd. But let's pray for peace, and let's pray that we shine a light on what is malign right now. Let's not get caught in it. Let's not do that. And let's pray for those that are suffering in trauma, and pray for justice, pray for the right action. But more importantly, we need to put the light on that which is malign, that is causing all these problems, because there is more of us than there is them. And not just that, there's more what's the word, there's just more opportunity, for transformation in these times. Everyone is playing their part. That's the truth of the matter. Everybody is doing what is required through their authenticity and integrity to show us what we need to do to become more sovereign and aware. So we should send everyone love, protect ourselves, but at the same time, we're not going to fall prey to hypnotism, to tricks of, you want to call it the devil or, whatever, this Saturnian trick, which is the third dimension. Because if we're moving into this Aquarius, i.e. this new time, we've got to make sure that we are at peace. So I'm going to leave it at that. I've gone on longer than I should have done. Sorry, Amy. But anyway, be your way to show the way. Peace.